Well, joining me now are Ellen Adams, a 23-year-old medical student who runs an organisation teaching sex education to teenagers. Laura Mugford is 16. We met her 2 years ago as part of our Generation Sex series. And Amelia Coleman, who's 15 and who has previously spoken to Channel 4 News about the blurred lines around consensual sex. So, Amelia, let me start with you. I mean, do these statistics tally with your own experience?
Yes, I think so, because in school I hear a lot of chat about pictures. I've seen a lot of pictures, and I think it really affects like how you go about your daily life, like seeing like pictures of people you supposedly used to know, and yeah, just how you react to people around you.
So are you saying pornography is just an everyday part of teenage life?
It has
for most teenagers.
It has become that way. I mean, I think it's more for boys. Boys watch it a lot more, and you just hear about it all the time.
Laura, would you say the same?
Yeah, I'd say I'd completely agree with the boy thing. I know from my group of friends, none of them, well, the girls at least, watch it at all.
So how do you know the boys are watching it?
Well, it's quite an open thing that they would discuss with people. Like jokes are always made about how.
But teenage boys brag and lie all the time, don't they? I mean...
Very true. But I think generally boys are more open about that sort of thing, and they actually talk to girls a bit more about almost their standards that they think of us set by watching it. That they kind of almost are trying to explain to us how they expect us to act with them just from watching it online.
Ellen, do you think, I mean, these two certainly think, certainly with boys, that pornography on the internet is a part of their everyday lives. Is that your hunch, experience from teaching sex education?
I think so, definitely. I think that I found in classes that the topic of pornography does come up a lot. But actually, when we start talking to young people in a safe environment, in an environment with a young person who they can relate to, they actually start to talk about sex in a much more mature way, and they're actually given that opportunity to discuss it. And by providing sex education, you're almost negating or neutralising the effect that pornography can have on young people's lives.
Is it necessarily a bad thing?
Is it necessarily a bad thing? I mean, it's an interesting question, and not necessarily, but if not contextualised with proper, comprehensive sex education, I think the possibilities of damage are much greater.
Amelia, do you think it's a bad thing? I mean, do you think it's affecting behaviour? I mean, when you say it affects your life, I mean, what do you mean?
Personally, I think it's a bad thing because I've never actually watched porn because the talk of it just puts me off. I don't feel like I need to, because I've formed an opinion from what I've heard from friends in school and what I've heard from my mum and my parents, but I do think that it affects the way boys see women. I think in porn they're seen as objects, and I think that's such a bad thing, because I think it's so disrespectful to women in general. And I think that if boys watch porn before they've had sex, then they have an image in their heads of what a woman's body should look like and what that kind of sex should be like. And
that's what those 18-year-olds in the survey are talking about when they say it changes their expectations of how to look and how to act. Mm-hmm. Is that what you would say as well?
Yeah, I completely agree. I think it sets a really unrealistic standard of what women are supposed to look like and B, actually perform like. I think it completely, if you're having an actual education with a person that can talk to you and you can talk back to them and feel comfortable and actually get the proper facts about it, as opposed to what you're seeing from a camera that's probably not truthful, I think it just completely sets an unrealistic standard for what women these days are supposed to be like in both everything, really.
I mean, Ellen, a lot of people will be watching this saying, but, you know, people have had access to pornography in some form for an awful long time. You know, it's been very likely that teenage boys will have seen images, you know, their first sexual experience will have been with a piece of paper. You know, so they will have strange expectations of what real sex is. I mean, has anything really changed? I mean, is it about, you know, the amount that they're consuming, or what? Or the regularity?
Well, obviously we have the smartphone revolution where everyone has access to porn, but I think it doesn't really matter to me, like, the ubiquity of it in society. I think what we need to be doing is prioritising young people's decision-making process, informing young people enough so that they can make their own informed decisions about their sexual health.
But what does the internet have to do with this? I mean, is what I'm trying to get at. Has the internet changed anything here? Or is this the same set of pressures that we've always had in society?
I'm not entirely sure, to be honest. I think that there is definitely a problem with misinformation on the internet. I mean, if somebody wants to find out information that they're not being provided in school, and is quite an awkward topic for parents to be talking about, if they do Google something like sex, you are much more likely to come across a porn site or a great website like Brooke or or the Family Planning Association, which is actually providing comprehensive and sensible information.
Can I just ask you two both, very briefly, because we've only got a bit of time. I mean, would you want more sex education? Do you think sex education is the answer?
Definitely. I think that the more informed you are, the more information that you have to make a decision as to what is actual fact.
And in your experience, is sex education handled well?
I've had a few lessons/days in school, but I definitely think it needs to be enforced more, definitely, because I think, like she said, I just think that the more you know about it, the more able you are to make an informed decision.
Thank you all very much indeed. Thank you very much.